When I was 13, I was hit by a car on the way to school. It was a total accident, just one of those things. It happened on a Friday morning in October, and I was in a coma for days. When I woke up, the whole incident was just a blank. It was actually pretty creepy. I was fine though, just some tiny cuts next to my left eye where I'd got glass embedded in my face, and a huge lump on the outside edge of my right thigh. The doctors said it was just moved fat, and I had 2 rounds of liposuction to get rid of it later on. I thought of it as a massive bruise. I missed about a month of school and couldn't walk for weeks because my legs were weak, and it hurt so much just to stand up. But over time I healed and fully recovered. Later in my teens I sunk into a deep depression and wished I'd died in that accident. I tortured myself so much. I met an older man when I was 20 and fell in love. He was my first in every way, but I soon began having second thoughts about our relationship. Just as quickly as these doubts came, my stupid naivety led to me falling pregnant. Having an old-fashioned mindset, it never occurred to me that breaking up with him was an option, so I stayed. We got a place together, and over the following years a lot happened, good and bad, including a second child, followed by marriage. I eventually came to my senses and left him, retreating to my parents. I needed their support due to the emotional turmoil of the split and having 2 infants to care for. And there we stayed, for years, while I struggled with feeling like a burden to them, and like a loser for not having my own place, and not being able to secure a permanent job. But I found ways to cope, and remained positive and upbeat as much as possible. Eventually I sunk into deep depression again, failing to use force of willpower to keep it at bay. Writing stories and being a part of the YouTube community helped me keep me sane. But when I left my ex, I had been pregnant again, and found out later. I was going to keep it, but my mum's reaction made me have second thoughts. She started crying and said her life was over. I failed to make sense of this. I was about 24 years old and a good mother. I knew my dad's response would not be better, so I made a decision. I knew it was the only choice I had, but that it had to be my idea, my decision. I told my parents I wanted to have an abortion. They immediately said they'd support me. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and I suffered severe guilt for years afterwards. I never really got over it, but I got to the point that I could live with the decision, without being consumed by guilt. When I went into hospital to have the procedure, the ward was familiar, even though I'd never been there before in my life. I had flashbacks to dreams that I'd had, and suddenly all the hospital dreams I'd been having made sense. They'd been warning, an attempt to prepare me for this event, something that had been a waypoint on my journey through life, determined years in advance. I still wonder if that baby was a girl or a boy, and if it had a spirit at that stage attached to it. I mean, I know that'll sound crazy to people who don't believe in that sort of thing, but I wonder. If so, I hope it has or can forgive me. I had a couple of other relationships, but they didn't work out. I continued to have premonitory dreams, and other powerful dreams that stayed in my mind. I realised I have a bit of a photographic memory. One dream was about a car crash. We were all in my dad's car, and a vehicle was coming straight for us. Realising what was about to happen, I screamed. The next thing I know, our car is upside down in the road, and there was broken glass and blood everywhere. Then I woke up. My scream was so vivid it stayed with me and terrified me. I became convinced this was a premonition and went out of my way to avoid travelling in Dad's car, particularly in the seating arrangement I dreamt about. Thankfully nothing happened, and eventually Dad replaced that car. I had mixed feelings about driving around that time, and thought it was maybe for the best that I didn't actually have a car of my own. I had lost the use of my car after a minor coming together when I'd been pregnant with my eldest. A woman pulling out hadn't seen me and smashed into the left front side of the engine compartment, completely screwed up the suspension and made the car undrivable. The cost of repair had been more than the car was worth, so we scrapped it, and I haven't been able to afford one since. And that was a long time ago. I think there might be someone watching over me, because before that smash I had a near miss. I'd been driving at night in the countryside on a regular 2-lane road while pregnant with my eldest again, of course. And around a corner I saw 2 maniacs heading straight for me, one in each lane. I instinctively took my foot off the accelerator straight away, and I braked a little to give him more time so that they could get out of my way. But he didn't. I thought he would pull in front or behind of the car next to him, but they just kept coming. I don't think they even slowed down. I braked more, and since there were ditches either side of the road, felt there was no way out. We were going to crash. Then, just at the right moment, a tiny gravel lay-by, only big enough for one car, appeared on my side of the road. I pulled in just in time, and the cars sailed past. When I looked in my mirrors, I saw both pairs of taillights side by side as they disappeared around the bend. I tell you, I wished so many bad things on those damned idiots after that. If we'd have crashed, me and my unborn child could potentially have been killed. How can they do that? How can people drive like that with no consideration? But anyway, I try not to hold on to negativity. It's bad karma. That near accident really shook me up for a long time afterwards. More recently, I dreamt about my younger sister pushing a pram round a department store, accompanied by our deceased grandma. Several years after that, she actually had a baby with a long-term partner. I also had a dream about my youngest sister getting married. And she has recently got engaged to her long-term partner, and they are planning their wedding now. I also had a dream about my dad. They had a heart attack. I feel it's potentially a premonition about his death. But you can never be sure of anything. Sometimes they don't come true. So I'm not sure how fixed the future is. But the fact that dreams are potentially premonitions is scary. I'll tell you, unless you've experienced it yourself, you don't know what I'm talking about. I probably sound crazy. And it's not yet come true though, thankfully. And then one evening, as I lay in bed, drifting off to sleep, I sneezed and hit my head quite hard on the wall. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in hospital. I find out that I've been in a coma for 3 weeks and apparently nearly died. And also, I'm only 13. I don't initially remember the life I thought I'd been living out, but I do recall making the decision not to give up very clearly. I wanted to survive, to live long enough to have children. I don't even know why that's so important, but those were the most powerful thoughts in my mind as I regained consciousness. My life progressed and I recovered from the hit and run. Later in my teens, I sunk into a deep depression, as before, and this time I began asking myself a lot of deep metaphorical questions. It helped a little bit. Again, I didn't remember the life that had played out, or have any real moments of deja vu, just times when I had an odd feeling. I can't even describe the sensation. It was so weird. It wasn't until the summer of 2001, when I was 20 and joined a telephone dating thing run by or in association with the local FM radio station, that things changed. I was matched up with this older guy who said he worked with toys. I wasn't sure what that meant, but something about that appealed to me. But unlike the previous time, which of course I didn't even remember, I decided to pass over him, and unknowingly completely changed the course of my life. So here's to the future, whatever it may hold. I'll drink to that.